Hello friends, it's TechMan Pat, and today I'm going to show you how to upgrade your laptop and make it faster. Now the best way to do that with most laptops, and I'll give you a caveat in a second, is to actually upgrade the hard drive that's in there. Now most of the time when you buy a laptop, it might even be an older laptop, you can still get a little bit more use out of it if you upgrade it to an SSD. Now most of the time the actual laptop will have a standard hard drive, and that's a physical spinning disk. Now that physical spinning disk is obviously garnered by the rules of physics or physical things. It's a bit slower than a solid state hard drive, and that actually means that your laptop will be slow no matter how good the CPU is or however much RAM you have. So the best thing to upgrade is an SSD. Now, some of the reasons you might not have one when you buy a laptop is because the price of a laptop with an SSD is actually a lot more than if you just swap out what they already give you with another hard drive. Now this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be cloning the hard drive that's in this laptop and swapping it out to this crucial MX500, which is a 1 terabyte SSD. Now this actually has a 1 terabyte hard drive. So I've bought one same size, I just want it to be faster. But most of the time you might actually have half of that size, and upgrading to something like this will be a really good way to get more space, more speed, and of course, a lot cheaper than actually buying a laptop with a 1 terabyte SSD. So this was $180, and there's a few more bits and pieces that you might need, but it's chips in regards to price. What you're going to need is a USB 3 to Sata, and the reason it's USB 3 is because of speed. We want this to be done fast if you're cloning a hard drive. You're also going to need a USB, and there is some files and programs that you're going to need. You're going to need Rufus, and you're going to need Clonezilla. Now, both of these are free and available on the internet. I'm going to put them in the links below so you guys can get started and do it yourself. Now, there's actually nothing that we're going to do to the computer that you can't reverse instantly. All we're going to do is clone what's in here onto this disk with this cable and the software, and from then we're going to just swap them out and boot the computer back up. So literally taking it out. Now, if you're not comfortable taking it apart, the back of a laptop, maybe hold back or get somebody to help you. It is very, very simple, and most laptops that are not Macs, obviously, or Apple computers will have a bit at the back that you can just take out and access the hard drive only, or the hard drive and the RAM, and the swap should be very, very simple. Now remember, some actual laptops come with M.2 SSDs, and most of the time they'll have your Windows on it and they'll have a bigger one on the side, like in the case of this, where it has a normal hard drive. You can still swap out that hard drive, and you can still swap out that M.2 SSD. However, the value comes from swapping out that old hard drive. Alright, first things first, we need to set up Clonezilla, because that is actually probably the most challenging part, and actually booting into it and going through the option. And this is what this guide is for. We're going to set up a live boot disk of a Linux distro used for cloning, which is called Clonezilla, and it's freely available on the internet to download. Now what that means is that we're going to plug this USB into the laptop, we're going to turn off the laptop, and we're going to boot into this actual little disk and run a little program that's going to clone the hard drive that's on there and move it onto here. And the reason we're going to do that is so it doesn't affect the rest of your computer, because we can't do it through Windows. And you can, but you have to pay for the software that does it through Windows. This is the free way. It entails a little bit more work from our side. Okay, let's get started. We're going to create the boot disk. Okay, here we are at the computer. We've got our USB plugged in. It's called ESD USB, and we have our two files, the Rufus exe and the actual Clonezilla ISO. Now this is just an ISO. It means that we can load it onto this USB stick. So what we're going to do, we're going to first run Rufus, and yes, we're going to not allow it for now. We're not going to do any updates. We don't need it because we've downloaded the latest one. So we're going to make sure we choose the right USB stick, and this system is pretty smart. It will know which USB stick is there. Then we're going to click select, and we're going to go to the desktop, and we're going to choose that Clonezilla live CD. There we go. All done. And all we're going to do is press start, press OK, and then yes, because we're going to wipe that little memory stick. So make sure that if you're using a memory stick that you've got some files on it, remove that, because we definitely need to just use that USB stick for this. It's going to get completely formatted, and you're not going to be able to recover any of the files. Now this should be a very, very quick process, because this actual file from Clonezilla is very small. Once this is done, we're gonna jump back, we're gonna move the camera, and we're gonna stare straight into the laptop. Now, there's nothing you need to do with the laptop to prepare it because we're literally cloning the hard drive that's there, and we never have to actually do anything to Windows. And we can always swap it back if something goes wrong, and most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it doesn't. All right, guys, I'll catch you in a bit. Okay, let's get started. This is gonna be interesting. First of all, we need our little crucial hard drive, which we're gonna open up in a second, but let's just turn off the computer, right click, shut down. We're gonna fully shut it down. And then while that happens, we're gonna unbox this. Now this only cost $180 and it's a very good hard drive. Like Crucial makes pretty good hard drives, don't get me wrong. So for something like this, for a laptop, this will be absolutely fine. Here it is, the Crucial SSD. It is very small, 2.5 inch, and we have a little sticker. We're gonna grab the hard drive, plug in the Sata cable like so, and also plug it into your blue drive over here, your blue USB port, because that's the fast one. And that's really as simple as it gets. Blue one, a little bit faster. They've marked it pretty well. Then we're gonna plug in our USB into another port on the side right here. And this is something I can't really help you with. You're gonna have to Google the model of your laptop and check how to get into the boot menu when you turn it off. On this laptop, it is pressing the power and holding F2 to get into the BIOS menu. So we're gonna do that, turn it on, hold F2, and we're hopefully gonna boot straight into it. There we go. Now we're gonna navigate to this thing right here. This is the UFEI, which is that USB that we've plugged in, and we're just gonna drag that above it just because we want it to load into that first before it goes to the actual hard drive. And we're gonna press F10 to save that configuration, and hopefully now, if we hold F8, we're gonna get into the boot menu. And I know I did this kind of twice, but sometimes you kind of have to do both. On laptops, it's a bit finicky to get into the BIOS and actually to manage the boot menu. So let's have a look. All right, there it is. Easy as pie. We're in Clonezilla. So our hard drive is plugged in, our USB is plugged in, and we're in the software called Clonezilla. And the first thing you're gonna come up on is actually choosing a resolution for it to present. And we're gonna scroll down to the highest one for the sake of, actually no, we're gonna do the smallest one because we wanna see what we're gonna be actually doing. If it's bigger resolution, the letters might be smaller. So I just pressed enter straight away, which is the 800 by 600 resolution, and we're gonna go from there. Now it's gonna put a bunch of black on white writing here. It's gonna do its thing. Let it do its thing. Don't press any buttons, don't turn off the power, and that's it. So let's choose a language. It's gonna be pretty easy, guys. So again, enter on English, and we're gonna keep the default layout, which is US keyboard. Enter again. Again, I'm just letting you know I haven't pressed any arrows, and again, we're gonna press enter. Okay, so there's a couple of options here. The first one is device image, work with disks or partition using images. Device, work directly from disk or partition to a disk or partition. Remote source, remote destination, light server, and light client. We're actually gonna choose device to device because we're going from this hard drive to the one that's plugged in. So that's one arrow down to device. I'm trying to sort of describe what I'm seeing just in case you guys don't see it. Now, two things. If you're gonna go down to a smaller hard drive, you're going to need a different set of instructions from me, and it's a little bit more complicated. So I'm not gonna go through that today. Today, we're only going from the same hard drive size to the same hard drive size. If you're doing a hard drive that's smaller, like let's say you have a 1 terabyte here and you bought a 500 gig SSD, there is a couple of things you need to do. First of all, you need to partition your old hard drive and make it smaller than 500, and then you need to remove the other partition and hide it basically from Clonezilla. There's a lot of fluffing around, so I'm not gonna go through that today. So we're gonna go through beginner mode because we're just doing a simple clone. And we're gonna do disk to local disk, basically clone. Again, enter, and it's gonna do its thing, and it's gonna find disk number 3. So what we've got here, there's 2 disks here that we wanna clone, and there's one extra one, which is your Windows partition, or you might actually have none. This depends on what setup you have. So The NVMe is my Windows install, which is 256 SSD, that's in there, it's an M.2 SSD. And then we've got these two right here. Now these letters might not mean much, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna choose the source. Now they're both the same size, and one thing we know is that the actual one that is plugged into the hard drive here into the computer is A, and B is your drive over here. Now there's a really easy way to check. You do this whole process without it plugged in if you so wish. It actually has the instructions saying the first disk is A and so on. So this is the source that we're gonna choose. So we're gonna choose the A, SDA, which is your disk that we're cloning. And now we're gonna choose which disk we're gonna clone it to. And we're gonna choose this one here, which is your 1 terabyte FXD blah, blah, blah. You know, look, we're gonna skip checking repair source file system because there's no file systems on it, it's just files. There's no Windows, but if you're moving Windows, I would highly suggest to do the auto, and here we go. The action to perform when it's finished, we're gonna just say, let's choose the first one. Choose reboot, shutdown, etc. when everything is finished. So we get a good idea of what's done. Okay, I'm gonna press enter. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, yes. We're overriding this empty hard drive, which really means nothing because it is empty. Now, as long as you choose the correct hard drive to source from, you'll have no actual issues because this hard drive here is empty, but if you clone that onto your other drive, it's just gonna have an empty drive. So you gotta make sure that you are actually cloning the hard drive that's in here onto that drive. Now this might look complicated, but it is literally just following actual instructions, enter, 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 whatever it is. Now, this is gonna take a little while. Because that hard drive in here is 1 terabyte, there's a whole bunch of games on it, we're gonna clone it onto here and it's gonna take a little while. So, one thing to note, that if you do have a lot of stuff on your hard drive is gonna do this very, very slowly. First of all, the transfer rate between this hard drive and your one on the USB is a lot lower, and also your hard drive here is a lot lower. This process right now is going to take 1 hour and 40 minutes. Don't touch the laptop, don't move anything. I wish you guys good luck, and I'll see you guys in 1 hour and 39 minutes and 31 seconds. Okay, 1.5 hours later, it is done. We get a couple of options here. We're going to power off, completely close down the computer, press enter, and you're completely done. Once the computer is completely off, you can take out your USB stick and you can unplug the hard drive. It is actually quite warm, which is a good sign, means it did its thing. So let's unplug the USB. Boom, that's one thing. And we can unplug the hard drive. Now this hard drive is now an exact clone of what's inside here. Now we can go ahead and turn on the computer and go back to Windows. As you can see, it'll just boot in normally. We haven't touched anything that is unworldly or is going to affect the computer at all. So what we've done, we've just done a clone using a cable, a little USB, and now all that data that was on that hard drive is here. So as you can see, you can now log straight in into your computer. So let's turn it off again and let's get to replacing this inside the actual device. So we're going to take it apart. Now this is specifically for this laptop, but obviously all laptops differ a little bit, but it is going to be the same exact process. So let's get started. Okay, first things first, turn the laptop off, unplug it completely from power. We don't need that plugged in right now. Turn it around the other side and we're going to try and now find all the screws that you need to unscrew to get to the actual bottom of your hard drive to actually uncover the bottom bit here. So with this laptop, you have to take off the whole cover and that's it. That's all you're gonna have to take off. There's no little covers. Some might have little covers like here, and that's where you can just take out the hard drive. So let's get that unscrewed right now. Now, one thing to remember is where these go back in. So make sure you do that. We're gonna put these to the side to know that these two go at the top bits over there. Okay, and most of the time it'll be very easy to lift off, but you're gonna have to grab an edge and just pull up on it. Now which edge that is gonna depend on your computer. let's have a quick look at what we have. This is the battery. Be very careful around this. We don't want to touch it. This is the RAM, and this is where you can add an extra little RAM slot. And most laptops will have a free one unless you've paid extra when you first bought it to have 2 RAM sticks. This is the M.2 slot, or the actual hard drive that has the Windows installation, and this is our secondary hard drive. This is what we're replacing with this. So let's get to unscrewing this. And most of the time what you will see is actually a couple of screws just holding it in, and that's what we're going to take off. So let's get that out. Now gently lift it out and make sure that you be very careful with these cables. They are very easily broken. So if you can unfold it the way it folds out, that would be the best. All you have to do is just unplug it very gently. There we go. That's out, and be very gentle with it. Not all have a ribbon cable like this, but most can do, the newer ones do. As you can see, you have to be very gentle with it. All right, so let's get it undone. Now, before you take it out, let's match up the way it needs to go in. So as you can see, the little one is on this side, so we're just going to flip it like this, and this is the way you're going to put it in. So we're going to take that out, put that to the side, and put the new hard drive in, and we're going to reverse the process with the screws. Now most of these screws will fit exactly a 2.5-inch hard drive. Be very careful with electric tools so you don't over torque the screws. So be very gentle on that button. I would suggest using hand screwdrivers, but for the sake of speed, I'm using this. We're going to do the same on the other side. You might need to put a little bit of pressure on the hard drive and the metal panel just to line the screws up, but it shouldn't be too much. Back to the ribbon. We're going to line it up again. Make sure the ribbon is going to be in correctly. Remember that this hard drive is going to sit like this on here, so we're going to put the ribbon in like so. And because there's a little bit underneath here, we're just going to push it on, line it up, and place it back in the exact spot it came from. There we go. And it fits very snugly in the same spot. And now we're going to start off with the reverse. Put in the 3 screws. Now a cloned hard drive will basically have no discernible difference between the actual drive that was in there versus what's been put in. So here we are, we're back at the desktop, and let's just go see into our hard drive and see what's going on. There it is. There's the secondary hard drive, 931 gigabytes, which is that one single terabyte. All is well. And now what we're going to check quickly is we're going to load up a game that is actually sitting on that hard drive. Friends, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has helped you to clone your hard drive and get better speeds for your games or just actually browsing and using the laptop. Remember, if you upgrade this little thing in your actual laptop, will it be a gaming or non-gaming laptop, you will actually gain a significant speed boost and usability day to day that you will just, frankly, I think you'll be shocked at not only how quickly your machine will start working, even if it's brand new. I'm telling you right now, even if this was brand new, without an SSD, it would still be slow. Highly recommend doing this as an upgrade, and all you need is this $5 item from Amazon or eBay, a USB stick, and Clonezilla, which is freely available from the internet, and Rufus to manage it all, and chuck it on this hard drive. Thank you very much for watching. Hope this was helpful. And guys, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in another video. Goodbye.